Welcome to Barn Tech. Today I'm back in the barn with my 2009 Ford F-250. Last week I had a diesel Runaway, and today I'm going to dig in, figure out what happened and what I need to do to get it fixed. Since I had to Runaway, there's no doubt that I had to lift the cab. So here I am with the cab lifted. If my theory was correct about the air filter causing the turbocharger to belch out a bunch of oil into the intake, then I should have a bunch of oil pour out when I pull this lower intercooler pipe. Well, there you have it. Looks like I did have a bunch of oil in the intercooler, and that gives me a pretty good hint as to what happened. I wasn't expecting quite that much oil. When I saw oil in the intercooler, I suspected that something had gone wrong with my turbos. And so now I have disassembled both turbos and inspected for anything wrong, and I can't find any problems. In fact, they look cleaner than they did when I put them together. And so I'm going to now inspect the engine and see just how bad the damage was from the Runaway. Before we move on, I want to encourage you guys. Jesus said, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." I don't think Jesus was talking about blown engines and diesel Runaways, but the concept still applies. We can have faith in the one who has overcome the world. So the first thing that I thought was worth noting as I pulled this engine apart was cylinder number 1 seems to have some moisture coming out the exhaust port. Cylinder number 3 looks dry. Similarly, cylinder number 5 seems dry, and cylinder number 7 seems to have moisture coming out the exhaust port. Similar to what I saw on the right side of the engine, cylinder number 2 seems to be moist on the exhaust port. Cylinder number 4 is dry. Cylinder number 6 is dry. And cylinder number 8 is wet. So what this is telling me is that all of the outboard cylinders are wet and the inboard cylinders are dry. My theory is that the head studs did not keep the cylinders square, and the outer cylinders lifted up just a little bit. So I'm going to check torque on the head studs and see if that's part of the issue. Well, I see a little discoloration on the outboard cylinders, indicating that there was some leakage on cylinder number 8, and even some up here on cylinder number 2. But there did not appear to be an outright failure of the head gasket. The right-hand head was a completely different story though. You can see right here that the head gasket completely failed. There was also damage to the piston, a little bit of damage to the block I'll look at in just a second. Most people think antifreeze can't burn. And under most conditions, that's true. The auto ignition temperature of antifreeze, ethylene glycol, is 748 degrees Fahrenheit. The exhaust gas temperature of a running diesel could be anywhere from 500 to 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. So the surface of this piston is above the auto ignition temperature of antifreeze. So if a little bit of antifreeze is squirting out of the head gasket onto the surface of this piston, it's going to burn. The thing about antifreeze, it burns like alcohol. It's got a really blue, hot burning flame. And that explains why the piston was just destroyed here in this area where the antifreeze was burning on top of it. So I'm pretty fortunate. Looking at the block here, there is some damage. It's probably a couple of thousandths deep. I should be able to get my block decked and I'll be okay on the block. if I rotate the piston down so that it's not at top dead center, there is some damage here at the top of the bore, but if you feel down where the rings go, there's not a lot of damage. So I think I'm going to try to hone this and see if I can get it to work out okay. I've got an appointment with the machine shop on Monday. I'm going to take it to them and let them tell me what they think it needs, but it looks to me like a hone and a deck and the block will be ready to go again. The head is a whole other story though. This is the area of the head that was right next to where the head gasket blew out. There's a groove cut into the head from this water jacket here into the cylinder bore. And I would say that groove is probably 50 thousandths deep. So obviously that's where the antifreeze was jetting into the combustion chamber. I was sort of fortunate that the engine stopped running away after about 10 seconds. And I believe what caused it to stop running away was it sucked so much oil into the #1 cylinder that it hydrolocked, blew out the head gasket, and it just ran out of inertia at that point to be able to continue running. When the head gasket blew, it also blew a hole in the radiator, actually split the radiator in half. But when the head gasket blew, that allowed coolant to come back into the #1 cylinder. And that was the source of most of my damage. Well, this truck has earned the name Aftermath. If you would like to see more videos on Aftermath, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're not ready for that kind of commitment though, you can click on one of these other videos popping up now. God bless.